All right, welcome back to Draws and Fades, episode 88, preview of the Genesis Invitational at Riviera Country Club in Los Angeles, California. I'm your host, Owen Vrabel, joined by my co-host, Matthew Miller,
What's going on, guys? Welcome back.
and producer Nick Boss.
What's going on, fellas? Happy Victory Tuesday this week.
Victory Tuesday. We will get into Scotty Scheffler's playoff win over Patrick Cantlay last week at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. But as we mentioned in the last couple episodes, we are partnering with Rotoballer this year. So make sure to win big in 2022 with Rotoballer.com's PGA Premium Pass. Are you ready to dominate? Rotoballer's premium DFS package includes exclusive tools, DFS cheat sheets, research stations, and our lineup optimizer, and so much more to help you win big. For limited time, get your PGA Premium Pass for 50% off. Use promo code DNF10 for another 10% discount. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio to sign up today and start rotoballing like a boss. And if you were rotoballing like a boss last week, you probably would have come across some Scotty Scheffler content, and he did cash a nice ticket for Boss and myself at the Waste Management Phoenix Open last week. So we will recap that for a little bit. There were some big names in the hunt all weekend. Obviously, me and Matt thought Brooks was going to take it home. He couldn't get it done, but we will recap that. We'll get into the course preview at Riviera, give you our strategy for this week for the outright market. We'll go through the odds list on DraftKings this week. 121-man field, Invitational hosted by Tiger Woods. So very, very good field. Lots of big names are in attendance. We'll give you our outright picks, top 10s and 20s, and one-and-done thoughts as well. And as always, please give us a follow on Twitter at draws_n_fades, at Matty Mills85, and at Owen_Vrabel. And show us some love on Apple and Spotify in the review section. We'd appreciate it. So
subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
And the YouTube channel. Absolutely. Scotty beat Cantlay in a playoff, which, if I'm being honest, obviously I love the fact that it did go to a playoff. It was fun. It would have been much more enjoyable if Scheffler just made his 5-foot putt on 18, if I'm being honest, because then it started to bleed into Super Bowl time, got messy going to 3 playoff holes, and I thought Cantlay was going to inevitably beat Scheffler in a playoff. But before we got there, no one really wanted to take the tournament by the balls on Sunday. I mean, there were plenty of big names in the mix: Xander, Brooks, Scheffler, Cantlay, and shout out Sahith Theegala because he was awesome all week. There were plenty of times Friday and Saturday I thought that he was going to, mostly Saturday, where he was in the final group with Brooks and Xander, and he just, after he double bogeys the second hole, just stays consistent throughout the round and keeps himself in it. So much so where he's in the final group again on Sunday, and until the 17th hole, you thought that he had a chance to win. And that was an awesome story, but good for Scotty Scheffler, gets his first win. There were so many storylines that could have come out of it. It didn't take, 16 under was the score that you needed to make the playoff with. And there are plenty of guys that could have gotten there that just couldn't get it done on Sunday, which is why the event as a whole is awesome with the fans, and the electricity in the air there is fun, but it provides a pretty good tournament regardless, and gives a lot of the guys want to come to play there anyway. So, big stack leaderboard at the end, and Scheffler versus Cantlay in a playoff. Pretty nice way to cap it off for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, fun event. Big win for Scheffler. Obviously impressive too, taking down Cantlay. We didn't know when, that first win was going to come for him. We talked about it last week, how he doesn't really get scared in those big moments, and proved that again this week. Looked like even in that playoff hole, he put himself in a bad spot, a couple of times off the tee in those 3 playoff holes, but managed to bounce back and get it done. So shout out Scotty Scheffler for that. Was not on him, but happy for you guys. And yeah, the only downside was it bled into the Super Bowl, but what are you going to do? I feel like the Super Bowl is usually later. I don't know. It felt like it started earlier this year. Am I wrong about that? Or
no, I think it's usually around that time, but I think it's like
I don't remember
it
being like that close to the start, but I guess it just didn't go to a playoff. Or
no, it's usually that close, because I remember last year when we hit on Brooks, like I was at a Super Bowl party with much more people than I was at this year, and so this year was like I felt a little bit more in control of the TV remote. And last year it was like people wanted to like see like the pregame and shit, and I'm like,
No.
it's like the 17th hole. Like we're about to like like what's going on here? So I don't know. I think they line it up pretty nicely, but yeah, if it goes to 3 playoff holes, it's gonna bleed into the Super Bowl a little bit. So, but what are you gonna do? And yeah, I mean, through Saturday, I really thought Brooks Koepka was gonna get it done.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously not disappointed. Scheffler kind of came out of nowhere on Saturday to get himself even into the mix, but yeah, he just couldn't make enough birdies and had just a few too many mistakes where he had a lot of tough par saves that he converted on, but he gave himself too many of those, and eventually they're going to catch up to you,
Yeah, he couldn't find the fairway on Sunday. I mean, it was like I think he didn't hit a fairway till like the 7th hole or something. It was bad, and all of them. I mean, he was hitting from the native area or behind a tree, and then he couldn't get his approaches close. And I mean, you just can't make birdies that way. And like you said, I mean, there's certain holes where he wasn't able to save par. I think he'd let himself down with the driver. He never really gave himself a chance because he was scrambling around off the tee, pretty consistently. At least on Sunday. So.
Well, because he looked like a beast on Thursday and Friday, and then kind of just lost it. So, nevertheless, Scotty Scheffler, that was pretty impressive, I will say. He doesn't make the 5-footer, but makes a 25, 30-footer to win on the 3rd playoff hole. I kind of had that feeling that he was going to need to do that regardless with Cantlay. Like, he was going to need to be outside of him and force a putt on him. Like, he needed to make birdie before Cantlay did and put the pressure back on him, instead of vice versa, where Cantlay's in close, Scheffler misses, and it's like, Cantlay knows he can 2-putt for another playoff, which is what happened in the first 2 holes. So
yeah, and Cantlay obviously played well, but it was funny because he was like so nails in that BMW when him and Bryson went to the playoff, and he made everything. And this week he didn't really make anything when it mattered. I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, I mean, he had putt on 18 for birdie. He had a putt on 17. Then he obviously had the putt in the playoff to win it on the first playoff hole. That was similar to the one he had on 18, and then he obviously had the putt to tie as well. Couldn't get any of them to fall.
Yeah, and I think most Scheffler backers, I know I did for sure, boss. I'm sure you're on the same page. Like those thoughts with Cantlay definitely were going through my mind. Like even after Scheffler made his birdie putt, I'm like, he's going to drain us on top of this. Like it never felt like it was going to be easy with him. And I mean, technically it wasn't. It went to 3 playoff holes, but sometimes you got to grind it out for a winner of the PGA Tour. So
it was a full. I mean, I didn't really have. I mean, he wasn't really in the mix starting the weekend. I mean, he had an awesome Saturday. Started on the back 9 and just
that's
crazy.
Another thing too. I don't know if he even does that if he starts on the front 9 on Saturday.
Probably not.
Like I mean, that back 9 is easier to score on, and he just got so much momentum starting hot on that. That like
but he also didn't really. He didn't go that deep on the front. Like I think he went 2 under on the front.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying like who knows if he starts like -2 on the front if he even does that on the back.
True.
You know what I mean? He
also
got himself
really hard to get hot right away, though.
What's that?
It's also really hard to get hot right away, no matter what 9 you start on. You know what I mean?
No, I know. But I'm just saying it was like crazy.
He was shooting at 29 on any 9 anytime is insane. So.
Oh, sure. I'm just saying like he did that on the back 9, and then all of a sudden he was like right in the mix.
True. Yeah, but no one else really took advantage of the back 9 that day. So at least to the extent that he did. So.
Well, he got it in the morning too. I mean, I know the course got pretty fast and firm, so I have no actual knowledge of this, but I'm assuming in the morning there was it wasn't nearly as bad. So him catching that on Saturday morning probably helped. Either way, I don't care because he won, and that's really all I'm here for. So, but definitely was sweating out my decision to not take Brooks. I was pretty nervous. Hand up there, I'll admit that.
Yeah, you never admitted it until today. So.
Well, I mean, if I hadn't won, I probably still wouldn't have admitted it. But I'm sitting here with the winning ticket, so I feel a lot better about how last week went. So I will share.
No one wanted to admit that. No one who didn't take Brooks wanted to admit that it was dumb to not take him at 35-1. It was dumb. I mean, he's clearly really good at the waste management.
Yeah, it was almost the same thing that like happened last year.
It was almost identical, except he didn't chip in for eagle on 17. So. Yeah. Either way, good vibes coming into the Genesis. We've now 2 years in a row we've hit on a waste management, and last year we hit on Max Homa here at the Genesis over Tony Finau in a playoff. So we're rolling well. We got some good vibes in playoffs, and we're at a course that is a tough course, and we're getting a bunch of the top names here. I think are all of the top 10 here this week?
Yeah, all the top 10. I think so out of the top 20, it's Louis, Daniel Berger, and Bryson are not playing. Bryson and Daniel Berger are hurt, and Louis is just not playing for whatever reason.
Right, Bryson's hurt. We're a golf betting podcast. We're not going to get into the Saudi, hearsay, but we may not be seeing Bryson for a while, which wouldn't be necessarily bad for us, and we probably wouldn't take him at certain events anyway. So we are at Riviera, and we've seen some dramatic things happen here in the past. We've seen plenty of multi-time winners like Bubba Watson. We've seen plenty of things, and we have a bunch of them in the field this week. So, Matt, let us know what we're working with this week at Riviera.
Yeah, it's a par 71, 7,322 yards, POA greens, plays longer than the yardage indicates. So all the par fives are pretty short. The first one is one of the easiest par fives in the PGA Tour. That's hole number 1. And there's also the drivable 10th hole, which is probably one of the coolest holes in the PGA Tour rotation every year. It's where Homa beat Finau in the playoff last year, despite being stuck behind the tree. But It's like the ultimate risk-reward hole where, I mean, if you go for the green and you miss it, you could easily end up making, bogey. Some of the guys end up laying up. They hit like a 7-iron off the tee and leave themselves a full wedge in. However you want to play it, your choice, but it's a really fun hole to watch. There's a lot of fireworks on it. So looking forward to that. But getting back to the course, because of that short par 4 and the shorter par 5s, it leaves a lot of longer par 4s, which means that there's going to be a lot of long irons brought into play this week, and distance is going to matter off the tee. So 7 of those par 5s are over 450 yards. So it is going to be an advantage for longer hitters this week. The fairways are tough to hit, well below tour average, and the greens in regulation are lower than tour average as well. That may have something to do with, the low fairway percentage that's hit, but that's going to bring into play a lot of around the green game. So I think scrambling is going to be important this week as well. The winning score we typically see usually around somewhere in like the -10 to -15 range. Max Homa, as you said, was your winner last year. JB Holmes the year before. Adam Scott, who we hit on in 2019. And Dustin Johnson, I believe, the year before. So this week I'm looking for kind of ball strikers, guys who could play well with their long irons, and then some scrambling too. POA greens. So, I mean, if you want to look at POA putting, I think you can, but these greens are pretty hard to putt on for everybody. It's not like if you're a good POA putter, you're going to just putt the lights out here. Everybody seems to have trouble putting at this course. And there are reports that it's playing fast and firm this week, so it might make that putting a little bit more difficult as well. I don't know if you were looking at anything different or kind of on the same page there.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely narrow fairways, like percentage of the fairways hit on this course is way lower than PGA Tour average. Long hitters, I think, do have a slight advantage, but the supreme ball strikers, guys who can shape their golf shots, comfortable playing in the rough, and you need guys that can win in an elite caliber field. So that may not mean they have to be one of the top guys on the board, but someone who's comfortable playing in these tougher events and comfortable competing against the best players in the world. Those are the type of things you need. And like you said, I mean, yeah, we've seen multi-time winners here like Adam Scott, like Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson. We've seen guys that are very comfortable playing out of the rough and can compete in these tougher fields. It is kind of a cool course because we don't see this a lot in the PGA Tour where the finishing scores between 9 to 15 under, and you really do have to grind out your birdies and make sure you're not making huge mistakes on this course because they can happen on pretty much every hole. So don't get too down on bogeys. They're going to happen out there this week. It's more about taking advantage of plays where if you have a putt inside 10 feet for birdie, one of those weeks, that'd be nice to hit those because they're not going to happen that often. The greens are tough to hit. And so, yeah, the elite ball strikers for sure have an advantage because even once you get on the green, if you're not getting on the green in 2, the propensity to potentially 3-putt is always there. And even more so the propensity to completely screw up a scramble type situation and, leave a ball short and have to chip again, and then 2-putt for double bogey is also out there. So, yeah, I mean, we've also, like you said, we've also seen JB Holmes win here. So and James Hahn. So we've seen some things happen where some guys who are not necessarily known for winning these big events can win here, but they have to play really good golf. And even Max Homa last year, I think, was a little bit of a surprise. He takes down Finau in the playoff, where Finau's in position A and Homa's behind a tree, and he comes out on top because Finau completely screwed that hole up. So it's an awesome event. I love it. I'm actually going to be in attendance next week. I've moved out to Los Angeles, so I am going to be in attendance at least one of the days this week. We'll have some boots on the ground. Maybe Thursday, a little Thursday first round leader sweat out on the course would be nice. But we'll see. Yeah. So I'm excited. I don't know. Obviously I think the longer hitters do have a slight advantage, but if you're really hitting your driver well and you're finding fairways, you can be a shorter hitter and play well here.
That's the thing. I think
trying to already spin zone my way and just take an Abe answer because he's been driving the ball so well, but doing nothing else well. So
yeah, no, I mean, well, a guy like that, I mean, if you're a fairway finder, the way he is, then you could survive on this course. The thing is, if you are looking at it like guys are going to be missing fairways kind of regardless, then obviously if you're longer, it gives you an advantage because you have a shorter distance coming in, playing out of the rough, which is why it would lean to a long advantage. But yeah, I mean, if you're short, you certainly can win. You just have to hit a lot of fairways to do so.
Right.
And you look at some of those guys who have won, and you look at kind of a DJ or Bubba Watson or Adam Scott. They can all kind of get it out there. So we have seen some of those longer hitters be successful here, but you never know.
You never know. And that's why we're going to get into the odds list, because there may be some juicy numbers out there because of some reasoning the books have slid them down the board. But like I said, we have plenty of the top players in the world here. So Jon Rahm, as you would expect at this point, I guess, which we'll get into too. I don't see why they keep putting him at under 10-1, but he is at 8-1 on DraftKings. We'll be going down DraftKings. I thought they posted better numbers than FanDuel this week and some of the other books. So we'll be using DraftKings tonight to run down the odds board. Patrick Cantlay is at 10-1. Then Justin Thomas at 14. Dustin Johnson at 16. Hideki Matsuyama and Colin Morikawa at 18. So those are the 6 guys currently under 20-1. And yeah, it is crazy. I mean, Rahm has played great golf. I used him in one and done last week. Of course, he plays like the most blah tournament of all time, but I think he still finished inside the top 10. You never really see
typical top 10 for, Rahm and JT, where they kind of backdoor themselves in. They weren't in it, but they come top 10 and it looks like they were right in the mix of things.
Right. Yeah, he finished 10th. So that'll probably, I mean, he was only 4% owned in the Mayo Cup, so I'll take it. It was not the end of the world for me, but it's crazy. I guess that's why they're keeping his odds up there, because they feel like his downside is just not bad. Like most people's downside is like they missed the cut. His downside, he hasn't shot over par in like 20 rounds.
Might
be more than that. I saw a ridiculous
stat. No. It's like 7 months or something ridiculous.
It's 7 months. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Now we might both be bullshit the stat, but it's a ton of rounds that he has not shot over par.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know, because I was gonna say this tournament last year, but that'd be 12. So I don't know the stat, but yeah, it's been a while.
No, you know what it was? It was the Open Championship first round. It's the last time he shot over par in any round.
So that might be 7 months.
It is.
Ah, so yeah.
We're gonna go with it. It's been 7 months. Someone said that, and I'm gonna just take their word for it. It was on Twitter. It has to be true. So,
well, Twitter is always accurate. So
yeah. Obviously, and everything we say is usually accurate. So 7 months, he never shoots over par. But nevertheless, we're not going to bet him under 10-1. No. There may be a day eventually, but definitely not in a field like this where there's so many other big name players here. So we'll get down to the rest of it. But yeah, Cantlay, 10-1. He's been playing great too. Seems like he's almost a guaranteed lock inside the top 10. He continues to do it. Four events in a row. He's done that. But you see how difficult it is to win a PGA Tour event. I mean, he's in a playoff against a guy who's not won before, and he couldn't close the door on a three playoff holes. He needed a birdie, didn't make one. So that just shows you that it's not easy, and why take a guy 10-1, given how hard it is to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple now in a row where, I mean, this one he was obviously in the playoff. He was right in it in Pebble Beach, and Hoagie won, and he was right in it in the Amex too, and he didn't win. So it's tough to win a golf tournament, and he's probably going to be kicking himself if he comes out of this West Coast swing without a win, because you look at pretty much every tournament, he had a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah. So now that we got those two guys out of the way, of the next four guys, are you considering taking anyone under 20-1? I think you probably could have got a better number on a couple of them before the odds moved a little bit, but they've stayed pretty consistent in the 15 to 25 range. Are we considering any of the top guys?
I thought about a couple of them. I thought about Dustin Johnson a little bit. Played obviously very well here. I think his game sets up well. I just decided to move a little bit down, but I did consider him. I think Morikawa is an interesting play. JT, I think the number's a little too high for him. I did go up the board for him last week, but I feel like in this type of field, I wouldn't go, down and get him at that number.
Yeah, so I'm having a tough time in this part of the board because DraftKings released numbers on Monday, and I don't usually do this, but I started firing away. I was at the airport Monday morning, flying from New Jersey back to LA, legal sportsbook in New Jersey. Obviously, I don't have to go through the loopholes of asking people to place bets for me, so I was in there.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And yeah, so I made some maybe rash decisions, but at the time, I didn't really take anything at the top, move more towards some juicier numbers in the midsection. But now that I've had more time to look at things and all that, it still really is a tough decision between DJ and Colin. I probably am going to be on board with one of them. And DJ probably – they both make sense for different reasons. I mean, Colin has basically become one of the most consistent guys on tour over the past year. I mean, you look at his resume over the past 15 months, and you don't see many inconsistencies. He basically makes every cut and finishes inside the top 10 in pretty much every event he plays. He's been a little bit out of sight, out of mind. We haven't seen him since the Century Tournament of Champions on the PGA Tour. He's obviously played on the DP World Tour and played okay, but 18-1 on him feels pretty good at a ball striker's course. A little bit worried about him having to go up and down in certain situations, but I feel like he's put a lot of that to rest. Obviously, he played well at TPC Harding Park. We've seen him play well at major tournaments where it's obviously tough to get up and down. And then there's DJ, who kind of horse for the course type situation where he's already won here, and he really is the best player in the world when all things are clicking for him. So between the two, I really need to make a decision, and nothing's coming easy. Course history-wise, it would just say just take DJ. He has two runner-ups, a third, a fourth, a ninth, a 10th, and 8th. He basically always plays well here, and it makes sense because he can play out of the rough. He hits the ball a mile. He's as consistent in every part of his game as most players, as any elite player on tour, and he can win. So,
yeah, it's funny because it's like we've been kind of waiting for DJ to get back into that winner's circle. I mean, there was a time like a year ago where he was the guy that was going off under 10-1. He was unanimous number one in the world. And then last year he had a down year, and he played pretty well at Torrey. He didn't end up getting it done, but he hung around. He showed signs that he was, he hit it well enough. So I do think I don't think he's off his game, but we just haven't seen him close one out in a little bit. So I guess that's why you're kind of getting a bit of a number on him, it feels like, until he gets back in the winner's circle.
Yeah.
But then you look at Colin, and it's like you can keep looking for reasons why he won't win, but he wins a ton. I mean, his win rate is like higher than anyone else up here. He's winning multiple tournaments a year. It's like you can't really knock him.
Right. You know what?
That being said, though, horribly. He is more like downside. Like I feel like DJ's like floor is am I saying that correctly? Better than
Yeah, his
Collins.
floor
Like
is
Collins
higher.
could putt really bad and like it could be a disaster. Where DJ, like you don't really feel like it's going to be a disaster. But if
Well,
Collins,
especially at this course.
yeah.
Well,
And
and the thing is with Colin, when it's a disaster on the greens, he still will finish okay. Like he lost 7 strokes putting last year and finished 43rd. Lost like 3 strokes putting the year before, finished like 26th. So it doesn't seem like whatever his eye is telling him, it's like he doesn't work here. But that being said, I know he's the closest thing we've seen in terms of his irons to Tiger Woods and forever. So I know he could put it together. But also Tiger Woods didn't play very well here. So I think that's enough for me to pivot to Dustin Johnson.
Wow.
There we go. I'm glad we get full circle on that. So, yeah.
I'm glad
I think we can move on. Only because JT, I think a little bit too low. I mean, he did have an incredible approach game last week.
But what pisses me off is that's basically JT. Like, he never putts well. It's like not even like I feel like he's just it's always like, oh, if he got a couple putts to drop, but like he never gets them to drop. And I like made the mistake
but you like you said though, that is JT, and he does win tournaments. So like
but like the last one he won was what, Players? Like he doesn't.
Yeah, the Players, pretty big.
No, it's big, but I'm saying like he's. Well, I'm looking at FanDuel. He's 14-1. I mean, he won one tournament last year. He was. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, his putter holds him back in a lot of events.
Yeah, I think what they're saying is that the way he strikes the ball, he should be winning more tournaments than one per year, but he doesn't because he can't putt. So, and then Hideki been playing really good golf too. But again, it's hard to take Hideki under 20-1 with this incredible field, which is probably dumb because he really is a pretty well-rounded golfer. And I don't know, there's something about Hideki. I love him in like the 25 to 30 range.
Yeah.
So whenever he creeps up into this teen section, it feels like a no bet.
Yeah, he's also. I mean, you're more inclined to take him than me. He's also just not a guy that I bet a ton, and I feel like you kind of have your guys in certain ranges that you like to take, and you can't start messing with it. You got to stick to your guns.
Well, you better hope that starts working out for you, buddy.
Well, I think it's working out fine.
No, well, the only thing is not taking Hideki permanently could potentially. Well, yeah, I'm saying that I've taken Hideki plenty of times and not been on the correct ones. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you keep switching around on guys in the same range, then you can end up getting burned when they win.
All right. Well, I hope Hideki doesn't win this week. So we'll move on. Over 20-1, between 20 and 35. We have a nice slew of golfers here. Rory McIlroy at 22, Xander Schauffele at 22, Scotty Scheffler coming off his win is at 22, and Cameron Smith, who's getting a lot of love on the odds list, is at 22 as well. And then Victor Hovland, Will Zalatoris, 25 and 28 respectively. Brooks Koepka, Matt Fitzpatrick at 35-1. So nice little grouping of guys between 22 and 35. And this is what we said. Plenty of the best golfers in the world are here, and you're getting some pretty good numbers on guys that know how to win tournaments. So this is kind of where the excitement starts to build.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, I mean, you list the names in there, and there's guys that I'm excited to take, and that's why I'm not taking a Hideki at, 18-1 when I can take one of these guys at 22.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Yeah, so lead us off. I'm
taking Rory.
There we go.
Anytime he gets, in this 20 range, I feel inclined to take him because I think that he's better. He deserves better than that. I think he should be under 20 pretty much every time he tees it off. I understood went through a slump last year where he fell to this range. He's not really slumping now. He won the CJ Cup in October. He's played pretty well. We haven't seen him on the PGA Tour, since then, but he played over in the Middle East and he came in third in one of the events over there. I think he hit it in the water on 18, so he easily could have won that event too. So it doesn't really make sense to me why he's at that number on this course where he has 2 top 5s in his last 3 appearances here. It just kind of feels like a weird number. So I don't know if I'm getting tricked by something, but to me, that was kind of a no-brainer bet. He's second in his last 24 rounds on here, par 4s between 450 and 500. Quail Hollow, people talked about as a big comp course, the Riviera. We didn't really get into that in the opening, but I mean, Rory owns that course. He's won 3 times there. So it just kind of feels like a lot is lining up in his favor, and you're catching a good number on him too. So definitely going to get on board him this week.
Let's go. I'm joining the Rory bandwagon this week. I love it.
I like it. I feel like you're not on that bandwagon too often.
Not usually, yeah, but over 20-1 at a course he's played well at, and it's hard to make a model this week using any relative information and not have him pop up pretty high. I mean, his irons haven't been the best we've seen over his last 36 rounds, which again is kind of a skewed stat for him in particular in the PGA Tour because we haven't seen him play since he won at the TJ Cup. But things that I do like in his last 50 rounds under difficult scoring conditions on Fantasy National, he's third. He's sixth in strokes gained total at Riviera Country Club over his last 36 rounds. He's first in that par 4 category you mentioned over his last 36 rounds. And it's Rory McIlroy. He has courses that he likes. He's had 2 top 5 finishes here. And I think he's kind of in that point of his career where any week he could win. It's kind of like when you catch a good number on Rory, you got to kind of take it because if he goes on a nice run of a few tournaments in a row, we're going to see him down in the Justin Thomas range where he's at 14-1. And then you really are almost second guessing yourself, like trying to bet him every week. But when you see him over 20, it's really hard to not take him because, I think he's in the likes of the guys who are above him, like Morikawa, DJ, JT, Cantlay, and Rahm. He's as talented as all of them and has a better resume than most. So I like it. I like Rory this week. I think it'll be a nice team play. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. I'm glad that we're on the same page there. I'm glad to have you on board the Rory bandwagon. So hopefully he makes it easy for us this week. But we got to keep moving on. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on. But because I also considered Xander, which I don't usually do, but now it's back-to-back weeks where he's in the 20s, which probably is fair, as we've noticed at this point. His last full field event win is the Greenbrier in 2017, and he doesn't have an actual win since 2019. And we saw him have a chance this weekend and just not be able to put it together when he needed to on Saturday. He dunks it in the water twice on the back nine. Could have really, because he was striking the ball probably better than anyone, was putting, I think there was a stat, he was inside of 6 feet 24 times and converted 12 of them or not even. So it's comes down similar to JT with Xander with the putter and some of that clutch factorness that we've seen with other guys who know how to win. Xander doesn't always pull it off. So I moved away from him because I feel like there's too many other good players here to take Xander here. And I think eventually, I don't know, we may not get better numbers than we're getting on him right now because maybe he will win one eventually soon. But I guess in the same breath as the Rahm comparison, Xander is just always in the mix. So books are scared to put up a big number on him for a week where he actually does get putts to drop. But other than that, when you're actually betting on him in an outright market, it's kind of sucks because you just know that it's going to take almost like an out-of-body experience for Xander to close the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I used to take him all the time, and then 2 years ago, I stopped taking him, and I was like, you know what, if he gets one, I'll let it burn me. And he hasn't since then. So that just kind of goes to show that, I still, maybe he'll win one.
You're not going to let him burn you anymore.
Yeah, it's whatever it happened. If he does, he does. But had I kept getting on him and been like, oh, he's due, I would have just wasted 2 years of Xander bets.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now if it happens, I'm whatever, because it happens. It's so infrequent that I don't even care.
Right. So you're not taking Xander either. Who else you taking under 35?
I'm taking Victor Hovland. He was I don't know what number you have him at there on DraftKings. He was 27-1 on FanDuel. I see he just moved down recently to 24, but I like him this week. He came 5th here last year. He was 3rd at Quail Hollow, if you want to use that comp. Great ball striker, 4th in the field in ball striking last 24. He's 8th in his last 24 and par 4 scoring, 450 to 500. I feel like he's one of those guys that, tougher course. He plays well in tough conditions. He's one of those guys that's great with his long irons, great off the tee. Obviously, there's a little concern with him, scrambling around the green. Kind of a lot of concern with him in that respect. But I kind of feel like, Hovland is starting to prove himself. He's playing well. Obviously, he missed a cut last week, but prior to that, he had 3 wins since November. He's yet to kind of win that big tournament. I mean, he won the Hero World Challenge, but that's only an 18-man field. Even though it was against good players, it kind of doesn't really feel as significant as, this one would be. So I'm still waiting for him to break out one of these big events, but I feel like it's going to happen. I don't think he's scared against these type of fields, and I expect him to be kind of right in the mix. So I'm going to take a shot on him this week. Feels like a pretty good fit for him. And
his upside is so high. He's similar to Markel. His win rate's incredible. And putting a model together for me, it's like he's an outlier a big outlier in 2 categories. It's strokes gained around the green over his last 36 rounds. He's 116th of 121 players and 65th in strokes gained putting on POA over his last 50 rounds. But he still came out 12th in my model. That's how good he is at everything else that is important here. So I think he kind of overcomes a lot of those qualities because he'll make birdies when other guys aren't. And if he can hold his own in a given week where he makes a few good chips when he has to, he gives himself less opportunity for error by having such a good ball striking game where he doesn't need to get up and down as many times as other guys. This course in particular makes you feel like that's a scary proposition, but I think his upside is like up there with anyone. So I like that. I'm going to be taking Will Zalatoris this week. He started off at 35-1 on DraftKings, and I just jumped right on that. And it's probably a little bit of, recency bias where the last few tournaments we've seen him, 2 top 10s. At the Amex, he came in 6th, and then we saw him, losing the playoff at the Farmers. And he's just been really good. And I feel like his game translates well to a course like this. Similar to Hovland, that there will be the worry of around the green and putting. He has played here twice, I guess once as an amateur, and he missed a cut. And then last year he finished 15th. So similarly, I think he can lose strokes around the green, and it won't be as big of a deal as some of the other guys because he is so elite with his driver and so elite with his long irons that he's going to give himself more looks for birdies than other guys are getting. And we saw him lag putt so well at the Farmers too. Granted, he needed to make a couple more of those to actually win the event because if he had made any on Sunday instead of just 2 putting, he wins. But we had seen him kind of lose some of that and free putt and give away strokes when he shouldn't have. So I think Will's more due for a win than he has been in a while. We obviously haven't seen him off the COVID break. But I don't think that's going to affect him. So I'm willing to take a pretty good number on a guy who I think when we get into the heat of the year, if he's hitting the ball as well as he has been over the last 2 events we've seen him in, it's going to be hard for books to put him at good numbers because they know his upside is so high. So I like Willie Z a lot this week at 35.
Yeah, thought about him a little bit. We talked about it kind of, I guess it was the Amex episode where we kind of talked about how we liked him better at these tougher courses than some of the Birdie Fest events. And this is one of those courses. And he played obviously really well at Torrey Pines. And this week, I mean, if he does what he did that week, he could easily win. We don't know really if the COVID was anything or if it was something. It's kind of hard to gauge that. I just, kind of unfortunately missed out at that 35 number because I was still kind of in a tough decision-making process, and now I see him down to 29-1 on FanDuel, and some of the other guys he's around, I just can't get myself to take him over them. So right. I'm going to be off, but I think that this is certainly an event that he could play well at. I don't hate that pick at all.
All right, well, we got a big range from 40 to 60. So is there anyone – are you going to take Brooks or Matt Fitzpatrick?
I'm so torn on Brooks. I feel like I might have to because it's like how can we sit here at Farmers Insurance and then last week at Waste Management and say like, 30-1, he's an auto bet, and then he's fine. Like he played well last week. He's coming in with form. We saw something out of him. It's an elite field event, which he should get up for theoretically. One of those events where you kind of have to grind it out, which seems to be his bread and butter when you think about how well he plays every year, like the U.S. Open. This is not that this is the U.S. Open, but it's one of those events where you got to take your bogeys and, you're going to have to scramble around and grind out these holes. It's sort of the event that he plays well at. I feel like I haven't seen anyone taking him. I kind of feel like he's getting major, overlooked this week. I feel like this is kind of a good setup for him. I know he hasn't played particularly well here, but last year he came in 38th or whatever. He shot like a 77 on Saturday. Had he not done that, he has a way better finish than that.
So you're gonna do?
I don't know. I'm highly considering it. I feel like I have to. I don't feel like this is the time to jump off after he showed us something last week. Why am I hopping off?
Yeah, no, that's fair. Definitely fair. It's funny because he gained a bunch of strokes off the tee on Thursday and Friday, I feel like, and then he couldn't have been over the weekend. But he did end up getting 5 strokes off the tee at the Waste Management and 2.5 strokes on approach. He gained 6 strokes putting. And I think a lot of that was a lot of big par saves and clutch putts, which I think you will definitely need here too. But yeah, he's not been good here, and particularly has not been good around the greens here or on the greens. So maybe there's something to that, and maybe I'm going to get burned by not taking Brooks or Colin this week, 2 guys that I take often, but I'm going to go past that. And potentially, I mean, again, with Brooks, if you ever see anything and he plays well on Thursday, like don't put it past me. I'm not going to like shy away from adding him live, but I'm going to hold off for now. So we do have a nice group of guys, 40 and above. Sungjae Im, Jordan Spieth, Taylor Gooch, Russell Henley, Sam Burns are all at 40-1. 45-1 is Bubba Watson and Adam Scott, 2 former champions, followed by Max Homa, another former champion at 50-1. Tony Finau has moved down to 50-1 from he opened around 60, 65. Mark Leishman is at 50. And then Joaquin Neiman, Sergio Garcia, Seamus Power, Paul Casey, all at 60 as well. So a pretty good group of guys here between 40 and 60. Matt, I'll let you lead it off with what you like in this range.
Yeah, I'm going to dip down in this range to you have him at 60. I got a 65. I got to take my boy Sergio.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, he's a ball striker. This is a ball striker's paradise. He's played a ton here in the past. He's had, multiple top 5s, only a couple bad starts in there. He's played pretty well here in his career. It's one of those guys when I think, kind of that tee to green game, he's normally very good at that. He just kind of struggles putting. And if you're, maybe at this type of event where it's pretty hard to putt regardless, that kind of puts the field down to his typical level where it's hard to putt. But I think if he's hitting the ball the way he can, he certainly could be in the mix. And at that number, I can't resist it. He's one of those veteran guys that, he can kind of pull it out at any event now. He's been around so many times that it doesn't feel odd that he could win if he's in the mix come Sunday. We haven't seen him in the U.S. in a little bit, but he's coming off back-to-back top. I think he had a 10th and a 12th over in the Middle East in his last 2 starts. So nothing spectacular, but not bad over there. So I think he's ready to go. I'm going to take a shot at him this week. Tougher. Right. I think that I think he could step up.
Yeah, I guess I'm definitely not surprised. I think more people will probably be leaning towards the veterans like Bubba and Adam Scott, who've had a little bit better course history here. We're getting 20 points higher in the odds list. So you get him at a 65. It's a nice number. And it certainly feels like an event that Sergio can compete at. So I like that. I did consider Bubba and Adam Scott, but I went immediately on Monday at the airport to Sam Burns, which eventually is going to catch up to me, and maybe he's just going to continue to go on a bad run here.
He's missed
back-to-back cuts. Obviously, this most recent one was on the number, and he lost a ton of strokes off the tee and putting in his 2 rounds that he played at the Phoenix Open. But last year, we saw him – this was like the point where people were laughing at people betting Sam Burns because he gave it away after playing so well through 3 rounds. Didn't even get himself into a playoff and finished 3rd.
Yeah,
coming off of the finish in 2020 where he finished 23rd. I feel like this is a course that shapes his eye well. I think he plays really well here because he has turned himself into this very well-rounded player. And I'm a little bit concerned about his irons, but He did gain two and a half strokes on approach last week before he missed the cut at the Phoenix Open. So I don't think things are too far away. A couple of costly mistakes and just not capitalizing on the greens. And yeah, I can't not take Burns now after preaching his name for so long and feeling like this is going to be the Sam Burns breakout year. And a 40-1 number, maybe you could have got better. Like I could have thought that you were going to get better, but then on FanDuel, he slides down to 31-1. So, I think the books are still scared of Sam Burns, and I think for a good reason. He's proven he can win now, and 40-1 at a course he's proven to play well at. I'm down.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple components to this. Like last year, it looked like he had this, I don't want to say in the bag because a lot could happen in the golf tournament, but I think he had like a 2-shot lead on 11 or something, 11 or 12, whatever it was, and then he like hit it out of bounds. And it just
we've learned to know that a 2-stroke lead is definitely not a guarantee after Russell had like
no, but it looked like he was in like good control of himself. I mean, he
looked good all week.
Yeah, he looked good all week. I remember I want to say that it was like there was some sort of delay on Saturday or something, and they came out and finished that round Sunday morning.
Yeah, there's a wind delay.
And like he came out and he was like looking strong on Sunday. Like there was no concern, no fear. And he kept playing well in the front 9, and he was like in full control of his game, and he got through 10, and then he just like hit one out of bounds. And it was like, whoa, like, and then it kind of went a little bit downhill for him, but he certainly is capable of playing well here. I guess my question, you kind of addressed it, is like, typically Sam Burns, when you look at him, is that guy who's just like so consistent, and all last year he's like one of the hottest guys going into every event. Now it's time to see what he does, bounce back Sam Burns, because he's coming off 2 missed cuts and not really that good at Tournament of Champions. So he's on a little bit of a slump right now. So we'll see if he bounces back. I don't know how he is.
I will say that the only thing I really have to go off of in terms of slumps, just looking into last year, was he missed 3 cuts in a row, the Arnold Palmer, the Players, and the Valero, then finished 39th at RBC, and then won the Valspar. Again, this is a bigger event.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, you're more of a Burns guy than I am. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if he's like. I mean, I just don't remember like his form going into wins or anything like that. So I don't know.
And there's still gonna be that caveat out there that can Burns win in an elite type event? But we'll see. I mean, not saying that this is a super elite, but all the best players are here, and it's gonna be tough to win. So we'll see.
But I mean, there's that caveat with so many guys, and we've seen the last couple guys we've seen win in elite type of events, like Scotty Scheffler, Luke List. They never even won at all before. So. Right. I mean, Burns has got more going for him than them.
Right. So you're taking anyone else in this range before we get into the 70s and above?
No, I'm going to hop down.
No Homa, no Scott, no Bubba.
No, I thought about Homa. It's tough to go back-to-back at any event. I know I took Brooks last week, but typically I don't know why I do it, but I just don't like to do back-to-back winners at an event.
Right. So, I'm taking another guy who is not playing well currently. So in terms of current form, I'm straying a little bit away from that. I'm going to Tony Finau, who I also do not take often, coming off back-to-back missed cuts and a 40th at the Amex. But yeah, he lost at a playoff here last year. He has multiple runner-ups at this event, and I feel like it's too big of a number for Tony Finau, even though it's like crazy for me to say that. I got him at 60-1, and I've preached so many times to not take Tony Finau between 20 and 30-1 because I don't think he wins enough. But when it's at 60-1, feels a little bit better at a course where his long game off the tee is going to help him. And the poor putting, like you said with Sergio, is mitigated to an extent because it's going to be tough for everyone to putt. And he has success here. So I think Finau is not getting much love this week, although I'm sure people will have the 60-1 ticket out there because, again, I think it's just too good of a number to pass up on Tony Finau, proving how elite his game can be. His ceiling is certainly up there with the best of them. So I like Finau this week, even though we haven't seen much that would, lead you to believe he's going to compete this week. I think he also plays well in difficult scoring conditions. He's 15th over his last 50 rounds in this field under that category, and 16th in strokes gained to Riviera over his last 36 rounds. Played well at TPC Harding Park, which we've seen as a nice comparison course. He's got to clean it up. The around the green game and putting can be a mess for him at times, but again, the ceiling play on some of these guys I think is worth it.
Yeah, it's interesting. because I have no idea what the numbers were from last year at all. But if I had to guess what he went off at last year at this event, I would say like 25-1, somewhere between 25 and 30. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess the form's not good, but I mean, double that number. And he had, I think after Homa was behind the tree and he was where he was off the tee, he was like above a 95% chance to win.
Yeah, no, and it was definitely under 30-1 because he went fourth at the Amex, second at the Farmers, and then leading into the Genesis.
Yeah. And he had, I mean, it was, I remember it was like Homa had less than a 5% chance to win. I want to say it was like 98-2 or something after he got stuck behind a tree and had to like chip it out backwards. And Tony that was before he could win, before he got the monkey off his back, but he just found a way to not get that done. You felt like it was like never going to happen for him. But
right. And we felt justified in saying everything we've always said about Tony.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a crazy number for him, so I don't hate that at all. If I didn't have a bunch of my boys down here that I couldn't resist betting, I'd probably get on board that with you as well.
All right, well, let me get to it then. I'll list the guys from 70 to 100, which I have this feeling we'll be listing a few of your guys. So Jason Kokrak, Thomas Peters, Kevin Na, they're between 70 and 75 on DraftKings, and Cameron Tringali, Alexander Noren, Abe Answer, Luke List, Sibu Kim, all at 80. Lonto Griffin, Tom Hoagie, Patrick Reed, Matt McNeely, Mackenzie Hughes, all at 90. And then we're 100 and above into the long shot range. Especially at a course like this, I think it's going to be tough for guys over 100-1 to compete to win here. But that being said, between 70 and 90, it feels a little better. Feels like these guys probably have a better chance than the guys over 100, and there's probably just a few things that are missing in their games right now. So, or not, and they just don't get respect on the odds list, Matt. So tell me what you're working with.
I'm going to take Thomas Peters, which this is like the second straight week. I mean, maybe I just was unaware of how popular Thomas Peters was. Maybe just everyone's on the same page as us, but like, I didn't think he was like that popular of a name where he would come over here and everyone would take him. And it hasn't been the case. Like in the past couple of years when he's come over, like I've taken him and no one else really did. And
he didn't win, but
he didn't win. But
it's
like
an echo chamber now.
Yeah. He's like chalk now. Everybody's on him. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. But regardless, he does have I'm not hopping off. I'm sticking my ground this week. This is now the second straight week. Keith Mitchell last week, Thomas Peters this week. It's happening, but he came second here in 2017, coming off that win in the Middle East, which we were on for him over there in Europe. And well, I guess it was in the Middle East, but European tour. And he's one of those guys, good ball striker, good long irons, plays well at these, tougher events. I took him at the US Open a few years ago. I think he ended up falling off, but he hung around for a little bit. So, this is the type of event that I like him at, but pretty much, I'm going to be honest, anytime he comes to the United States, I like him. So I was not going to resist at this number.
Fair enough. Yeah, I definitely considered him, especially after we all hit on him in Saudi Arabia. So I do like Thomas Peters. He's a stud. He's long off the tee. Can certainly get hot with his irons as well. And I think he's going to make a name for himself more than just, the golf Twitter atmosphere that we involve ourselves in. I think to the general public, he's probably still pretty unknown. I don't think your average golf fan who tunes in for the majors necessarily recognizes Thomas Peters' names, but he's really good, and he's at 70-1, so I don't hate that at all. I placed a few bets that I don't say I regret yet because obviously the tournament hasn't started yet, but I took Abe at 80.
Have to. I mean, yeah, we have to.
You have to. It's been bad.
What, like 32 weeks ago or something? 20 something? I mean, you got to take him at 80. This is ridiculous. This is the original Abe. Like when we started taking him, he was like 80.
Yep. Yeah. But in terms of like having things to say, I mean, last week in particular was frustrating as fuck because he finishes 43rd, but like had so many opportunities to not do that at all.
He plays so much better than 43rd.
He was top 5 in strokes gained off the tee.
Well, he doesn't like. It's so weird because I mean he played with Brooks too, so like I was following that group very closely. It's amazing that he doesn't like win more and like he doesn't miss fairways. It's like pretty incredible. He's always in the fairway. which obviously will be very beneficial this week if he does that, because a lot of guys are going to be playing out of the rough. If he can keep it in the fairway, I think he's very live. The problem with him is he's been struggling putting, like you mentioned.
Well, it's been minuscule. It's like he's just not doing quite enough. Like his approaches have not been horrible. He only lost like less than a stroke on approach, but you need to gain strokes on approach if you want to win tournaments. That's pretty much a given. His putting wasn't good enough. He lost strokes putting. And his round and green game wasn't great either. And it's like he's giving himself all these opportunities off the tee and not capitalizing. But we've seen him capitalize before. And it does feel like an event where maybe the Bombers will have an advantage in terms of like most guys are going to be playing out of the rough. And that, could come to fruition this week with Abe, where he's playing from longer distances. And, if you look at his history here, it's not great. He has a few 40 finishes and a missed cut last year. But I don't know. Yeah, when you see 80 on Abe now at this point, I feel like there's enough elite parts of his game where I feel like he could swing his irons around and get back in the mix. But he's going to need to catch up better.
Yeah, no. Well, if you look at some of the comps too, Quail Hollow and obviously Augusta is kind of a beast of its own, but some people were throwing that out there as well. And it's like he came second last year to Rory at Quail Hollow. He was obviously in that final group at Augusta when DJ won. Kind of blew up on Sunday, but he's played both those courses as well. So I think that it's not a course that he can't play well at. I think it's a good enough number to take a shot at him. Of course, we're going to do it regardless, but I don't think it's a bad choice.
All right, well, so that's our reasoning on Abe, and I just let you take the floor with the next guy because I took him as well. So
yeah, I mean Patrick Reed, 90-1. That is it's absurd. It's just absurd. 90-1 on Patrick Reed at this event. When we talk, like anytime we go into the opening and say like, oh, it's a tough course and like you're going to have to be able to scramble this week. That's right up his alley. I get that he hasn't played well here or lately, but this is like the type of event where like you see like that he annoys you and keeps like grinding it out, even though he's not hitting many greens. He just scrambles his ass off and makes every putt. Like he's very capable of doing that at a much better rate than like 90-1. Like he does that more often than that number, and that's the type of way he wins these golf tournaments. So, and it's weird too because I mean a lot of people are talking about like his driving numbers and like his tee to green being terrible, which it is. He does have a new driver in the bag this week for the record. But also like the thing he wins still despite not being good off the tee like all the time. Obviously it's very bad right now. You'd like it to be better than what it is. But the thing that's got me when I look deeper into his stats, it's like not really being talked about, is he's lost strokes putting 2 of his last 4 events, and he's lost strokes around the green 3 of his last 6 events. That's not Patrick Reed. Like he's like top 10 in both those categories.
Yeah.
Historically. So if he gets back to doing that, which I expect him to do, like all of a sudden those finishes go from like 46 to like he's right in the mix of top 20s in these last couple of events, and he's certainly not at 90-1 this week.
Yeah. So, I mean, I saw the 90 and I just took it immediately. I hate Patrick Reed. It's like, it's just too disrespectful a number. The going with the club changes, everything that's been poor with Patrick Reed, there's enough bad things to say about him besides the fact that he, sucks as a human being. Pretty good golfer. And I think that he has a much better chance than 90-1 to win this event.
I just couldn't imagine he wins and like guys are like, oh, like he's not in good form. You don't take him at 90-1 and you take like Lanto Griffin instead.
Yeah. Well,
and it's like, come on, like what are you doing here? Look at who he's.
Oh yeah, Matt McNeely.
I think I'm going to take Matt McNeely this week, and then Patrick Reed wins at the same number. Like, you are the biggest idiot ever.
Right, Mackenzie Hughes, all of them. Yeah, I mean they're all in that same range, and I think it would all be disrespectful if you took any of them and then he won. I will say I think Luke List playing the way he's playing could be a good play this week in the top 20 market. And then I have a few thoughts on some guys over 100 for top 20 type plays, Matt. So I guess we'll get through the 90s. Do you have anyone else that you were taking?
I'm thinking about taking a top 20 on. I don't know what number you have him there. He's 90-1 on FanDuel. I haven't put anything in yet, but Eric Van Royen.
Okay.
I like EVR. He's been playing well with his long irons lately. He's sixth in his last 24 rounds, 175 to 200, which I think could be, beneficial here on this course. When we talk about some of those longer par fours, the around the green is terrible, so that is a concern. But when you're taking a guy top 20, he doesn't have to be perfect. If he's hitting his irons well enough, he can kind of manage his way around that and still come inside the top 20. Especially in a shortened field, we only got like 120 guys instead of 156. I mean, gets slightly easier for those. So I will take EVR for top 20 this week. But that's the only other guy I have inside 100.
All right, I like it. I'm over 100 now, top 20 wise. A couple of guys who I've mentioned a bunch over the course of this podcast. I'm going to take Carlos Ortiz top 20 this week.
That. I was thinking about doing that as well. I might hop on board.
I think you'll find him in like the plus 350 range. I'm trying to find him on FanDuel right now, but nevertheless, he plays well here. He's played here 5 times. 4 of the 5, he's finished inside the top 26. He's a 9th and a 20th in those, and then 1 miscut last year. Obviously, we saw the fireworks last week with the hole-in-one, which means that his irons are feeling nice. And we've seen him kind of drift now to a pretty big number on the outright market, but I think in the top 20 sense, I like Ortiz having a good game here. I think it mixes well with what he does well. And I'm also going to take Windham Clark top 20 as well.
Windham?
He's played here twice, 2 top 20s, and he is a POA specialist. So he's second in strokes gained putting on POA over his last 50 rounds. So you're going to find a lot of bad stats out there about pretty much every other aspect of his game. But another long guy that can, give himself some opportunities to gain strokes on the green, where he's feeling it with the putter on POA, and he's clearly played well here in particular. So I do like both those guys at top 20 plays. He's gained over 4 strokes on the greens in both of his times at this course. So those are 2 of my deeper long shot top 20 plays.
Okay, I like that. I considered going back to Cam Davis. I don't know if I'm going to get there. He really let me down last week, but I do like his game still, and I think he's deep enough where I do kind of like some of these. I think he's talented, so I like that you can get a good number on him in some of these events. But I do have a little scar tissue after last week with him. Is there anyone else down here?
Yeah, I was kind of considering Bobby Mack for top 20 as well. Seen some decent performances of him in Europe.
Yeah, we took him the other week, and he hung around. It's
kind of an event that I can see him playing well at, where he needs to kind of grind some stuff out. But I'm not super high on Bobby Mack. He is pretty good on the longer par fours. Is better with his driver than people think. He's a pretty good POA putter and plays the difficult courses pretty well. So I do like Bobby Mack this week as a potential top 20 play.
Okay, I don't hate that.
That's pretty much all I got for my card, which I'm hoping to keep relatively light this week in terms of the top 20 market. We'll see how that shapes out. But in terms of one and done this week, Matt, Boss, you want to pop in here?
Yeah.
Also, before we get into the one and done, Boss, thoughts on the board? Who are you taking?
I got a lot of crossover with you guys. I mean, that's kind of typically the case. Great minds think alike. So that's what we got going on around here. Up at the top, Owen, I did the same tussle that you did, DJ and Colin. Kind of surprised you went the way you did, because you have historically been a Colin guy. I think, if I can remember correctly, you said anytime he floats above 20, he's an auto bet.
Yeah, well, he's at 18 right now.
I know. But he was at 22 when you were firing away at the airport, so I'm shocked that you didn't make that call. So
I know.
I'm okay with it, because, like I said, I was between the same 2 guys, so I don't hate that you went the DJ way. I'm going to go the Colin way. I'm going to utilize DJ in a different fashion. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm on Rory, so that's 3 for Rory across the board there. Feeling really good about Rory. Liked everything you said, Matt. Same reasoning. I mean, the Quail Hollow comp, the course history, he's been playing well. So I expect a good performance out of Rory this week. I'm going to be on Willie Z as well. I have no information about his little COVID stint, but I'm under the assumption that he's young, he's healthy, and he's a really good golfer, and I think this course sets up well for him. So I think he is a good play this week. Going to make it on my card there. And then I got a couple friends and family in the mid-tier. Going to go back to Adam Scott. I said it last week. I'm taking Adam Scott last week and this week. He did absolutely nothing last week to really make me think he's going to win this golf tournament. But I'm an Adam Scott guy, so I'm going to ride with Adam Scott. Max Homa as well. I kind of agree with you, Matt. It's tough to go back-to-back, especially in a field like this. But Max played well last week too. So West Coast Max will find a slot on my roster this week. And then Thomas Peters, our guy Thomas Peters. I'll jump. I mean, I'm already on the bandwagon, so I don't really count that as jumping on, but he's playing really well. He's got the distance. Might be a bit of an ass coming across in this stacked of a field, but looking for him to keep stepping up his game. So I like that. So that's where I'm going to be at there.
Beautiful. All right. So then I guess just to wrap things up in terms of our outright picks, I'm going with DJ, Rory, Willie Z, Burns, Finau, Answer, and Reed. And then I have to make some decisions on the top 20, but 3 of the longer shot guys I like are Ortiz, Windham Clark, and Bobby Mack. Matt?
Yeah, I am looking at Rory, Victor. I'm probably going to end up going Brooks. And then Sergio, Peters, Abe, and Reed down bottom there. And then probably mix some of those guys in for top 20. It's got to look at the numbers, but also going to add EVR. And I think I'm going to jump on Carlos Ortiz with you as well.
Beautiful.
I like that Bobby Mack call, Owen. I think he could play well here. My only concern would be he hasn't played the course before, but I mean, so from what I hear, lefties, their shot shape works well here, hence why it's a good track for Bubba. And he's got a good around the green game, so I think he'll be able to kind of clean it up if he, gets himself in a little trouble. So,
all right. Well, we're on to one and done. I've successfully made 4 cuts in a row, but I only have 1 top 20, and I'm still under $500,000 gain. So I'm in 3,643rd place out of 4,440. Not good. And I'm pretty torn, but I'm going to go between DJ or Rory. So that's where my head's at. I'm going to take one of the big boys out on a course where it's tough to have any conviction on someone who's not inside the top 20 in the world and pick them in a one-and-done fashion. So I'm really hoping that I make the right call on that one and pick one of the guys that I take right. But I need a big play here this week because I'm falling out of it fast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing too hot myself. It's actually I'm doing pretty poorly, so I'm a little bit ahead of you, but not much ahead of the field.
Are you in the 3,000s?
Yeah, I'm like 3,100, but yeah, I'm still in the 3,000. So I'm hoping to get that 3 removed from the front of my name. I want to get back into the 2 range, maybe even the 1.
We need a winner.
Yeah, so I hope I don't hit the winner this week because I'm not taking him outright, but top 5, I wouldn't mind. I think I'm going to use Patrick Cantlay. He's playing so well right now. I feel like he's as hot as he can get. He seems to be like West Coast guy. So this is last swing on the West Coast here, last stop on the West Coast, I should say. So I think I'm going to use him and just kind of hope for another top 10, easy finish out of him and move on to Florida.
All right, boss.
I'm going to go with DJ. Like I said, I thought about taking him outright, and I decided, I went with Colin, but in order to kind of have a piece of DJ this week, I think I'm going to use him one and done. Course history is just too much to ignore. I think he's playing really good golf, obviously. Dustin Johnson. So I'm going to take him one and done.
All right. And there you have it. So one and done. It's a massacre right now, but if one of it hits a winner, we're right back in the mix. So that's pretty much imperative at this point, as it always is with the race to the Mayo Cup. But there's so many big prizes out there. It would be really nice to get some traction going there because you're not getting paid if you're above 3,000. I can tell you that. So.
No.
With that being said, it's an exciting time for golf. It's going to be an awesome week, and I'm excited. We are working on a back-to-back winner potentially and also back-to-back years coming off our Max Homa win. So tune in next week. It's another episode of Draws and Fades.